Happy Devils Wednesday! You are listening to the State of the Fan address on the Let's Go Devils podcast. Welcome into a beautiful Wednesday night in New Jersey. I am Nick Villano, editor-in-chief of pucksandpitchforks.com, covering the South Jersey segment of the Let's Go Devils podcast. The North Jersey segment out of commission today. So guess what? We're flying solo. Yeah, that's the last time I'll sing. I promise. You don't have to turn it off. But we got a great show for you. We got Christian Arnold from AM New York coming on here at 8:40 p.m. So he's our guest tonight. Very excited to talk to him. He just wrote about the Devils making the playoffs and kind of what that's going to look like. So we're going to ask him a bunch of questions about the Devils, how we feel about the Devils, which is probably pretty bad after Monday night, what they look like in the playoffs. There's a lot of people who like them, a lot of people who don't. Very excited to talk to Christian just to see what his insights are. But right off the bat, I want to get into the article that just went up on pucksandpitchforks.com minutes ago. Frank Saravalli of the Daily Faceoff put out his top 50 free agents for the 2023 offseason. Weak class. Just not like what we expected. We thought there was going to be a bidding war for Patrick Kane. We thought there was going to be a bidding war for Vladimir Tarasenko. We thought Ryan Reeves was going to get the bag. But it just seems like that's not what this is going to be. That's not what this offseason is going to be like. Instead, number one on the list, Michael Bunting. Toronto Maple Leafs forward. He's been good, but the best free agent? You know, this has Kyle Okposo. This has, the guy from the Stars. His name's escaping me. But it's got just that stink on it. You know, like somebody's going to give him 5 years, $6 million per or something like that. But guess who was number two on that list? Damon Severson. The Devils' right-handed defenseman is the number two free agent in the class, according to Frank Saravalli. Number two! And Frank even says on Twitter earlier today that he thinks that Severson could be the number one free agent in terms of price because he's the only defenseman, or he's the top defenseman on the market. That's wild. Man, like, Severson getting the bag. I'm happy for Severson. He's taken a lot of crap while he's been here. He's been here, I believe, 9 seasons is what I wrote. 9 seasons, 4 playoff games. He played some playoff games with, I believe it was the Albany Devils when he was there. But the Devils aren't resigning him. That is just clear. This is Severson's last season. So cherish him, folks. Ignore the mistakes and cherish the good plays because he does more good than bad. And that's just a fact. But you got Dougie Hamilton signed for, I believe, 5 more seasons after this one. You got John Marino, who I believe is signed for 3 more seasons after this one. I don't have time to look up my stats to double check, but I know Dougie has 5 more seasons after this one. I believe Marino has 3. You're not giving Severson a 5-year deal worth $6 million per. That would be the hometown discount, by the way. The hometown discount is 5 years, $30 million. The not hometown discount, I think somebody's going to give him a 6x8. A 6x8 for Damon Severson. It's honestly not something I expected. But I wrote about that on pucksandpitchforks.com, so go check that out. I went about it in depth. Also, I'm looking at one other thing I wrote about. You know, I'm wearing my West Virginia hockey jersey. You know, and I do this because it's the closest thing I have to the Maize and Blue, the University of Michigan going to the Frozen Four. Very excited to see Luke Hughes, Ethan Edwards, and Seamus Casey fighting for a national championship. What a way to end, honestly. Like, a lot of people speculate, like, would Luke Hughes come out of college after 1 year? And a lot of people said, no, it makes more sense for him to go back to college because he doesn't have to worry about playing behind Owen Power. He doesn't, yeah, sure, they're losing a lot of offensive firepower in Matty Beniers and Ken Johnson leaving, but, this is still a really good team. That's what we kept saying. This is still a really good Michigan team. Like, no, they're losing too many players. It's going to be a down year. Why would you put Luke Hughes on a down year? Boom! He's in the Frozen Four. They won on an overtime goal against Sam Wu's Penn State Nittany Lions. You know what? Maybe that's why he's not on tonight. Sam just doesn't want to talk about Penn State losing to Luke Hughes. I know your little tricks and tactics, Samuel. Whatever. But yeah, so they're playing. I want to say it's Providence, but I'm not 100% sure. See, again, I can't look it up because I'm doing the show solo. I will look it up when we have the guest, and I will fact check myself. But again, I'm excited for Luke Hughes to win a championship. I need that. I get it. That means that he might not play for the Devils in the regular season because it's going to take him some time to catch up to speed with the system. I don't care. It is better for his development. Oh, Sam's here.
I hope this works.
I hear you. Okay.
I don't know how I got it to work. I did nothing. Maybe I confused myself.
All I needed to do is just make fun of Penn State and just magically you worked.
Just magically appear.
Yeah, okay. Are you sad, Sam, that Luke Hughes knocked out your Penn State Nittany Lions?
Luke Hughes didn't. Actually, Penn State knocked out Luke Hughes in that one play, that big hit behind the net, if you remember. But that's okay. He didn't get injured, so I was pretty happy about that because I was like, easy, guys, easy. I want you to win and send Luke over to New Jersey, but not in an ambulance. But right now,
But the kid can take a hit, and that's important because he's gonna get a lot of hits in the NHL.
You see my background right now?
Where are you right now? You're not at home?
I'm at American Whiskey, setting up for tomorrow's Big Game Day Live and Devils After Dark. I will be here till 1 a.m. setting up for all the shenanigans that's going to go on tomorrow.
Wait, what is happening tomorrow that it takes this much longer to set up?
Oh, when you have a lot of Rangers suck content, and I don't like to use that word. It's going to be on display.
Okay,
let's just say that.
Okay,
yeah.
Hey, I'm down for that. I love Rangers suck content. I love the tomorrow's game is, and I know our guest is coming on momentarily, but tomorrow's game is a scary one because, man, like, if you let the Rangers come all the way back, that is such a confidence boost for them, and you just don't want that. You held them off so hard. It was like they had winning streaks at the same time as the Devils did, so it seemed like the Devils did a really good job of just winning when they had to because the Rangers were winning, but all of a sudden the Devils' win streak dried up, and they've been losing a lot lately. And now you got the Rangers who have been winning still. I think they're 8-1-1 in the last. Nope, they might be 9-1 in the last 10 because they beat Columbus last night. But your only hope is that the Devils are hyper focused now. They realize they've been playing like dirt, and they look at the Rangers coming into the Rock. You gotta put a bullet in them. And you know how much of a confidence knock it would be for the Rangers to get this close and then fall back 4 points? I hate saying must wins, especially when you clinch the playoff spot, but you gotta win this game.
You have to. It is a must win. I mean, I think this is going to set the tone for the rest of the way into the playoffs. Both teams are in the playoffs, and I'll tell you, tomorrow's game is huge. And when Miles Wood says that he can't get tickets from the Devils themselves, it's a big deal. So, all right, well, let's introduce our next guest. His name is Christian Arnold. He's from AM New York. You can find him on Twitter at C_Arnold01. Christian, you're on with Sam and Nick. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well, guys. Really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, definitely. You've been churning out the content for AM New York. If you haven't seen AMNY, it's a nice alternate New York spot, especially with the Yankees season and Mets season starting soon. Devils, Rangers, and Islanders playoff pushes, and then if you're into basketball, Knicks are the Nets in the playoffs. I know my Knicks are in the playoffs. Are the Nets in the playoffs still? I don't know.
The Nets are still in the playoffs, though they're
Okay.
teetering on falling into the play-in round.
Okay. But Christian, thanks so much for coming on. So tomorrow night, Devils Rangers. It's a big matchup. Before I kind of get into it completely, out of curiosity, do you say this is a must-win for both of these teams? Like, how do you look at this game tomorrow?
Oh, I absolutely think it's a momentous game for both teams. I don't know if I would say it's a must-win. I think everyone kind of knows what's on the line. Both teams are going to the playoffs, but I don't necessarily know if it's as devastating necessarily for one team or the other. I think ultimately both teams want to have home ice advantage, going into the postseason, because this is most likely going to be the playoff matchup, depending on how things kind of fall out over the next week or so with the Rangers and Devils. But I don't know if I'd go and say it's a must-win. I think both teams would like to win this game for sure. I think the atmosphere is going to be electric. I think that you have a renewed sense of rivalry between the Rangers and the Devils, something you really haven't had in a long time, and even a little bit between the Islanders and the Devils as well. What was it? Monday's game was surprisingly close for the better part of 2.5 periods until the Islanders kind of blew it open. The refs kind of helped them a little bit too with that non-goal. The goal that got waved off, I should say. I didn't necessarily agree with the call, and I was there. But then again, with the state of hockey officiating and the ability to understand what is or isn't a distinct kicking motion is kind of lost on everybody these days. So it's tough to say. But you could sense there was a bit more of a charged atmosphere in the building. Devils fans have really showed out this year. You really saw it at UBS Arena on the island. I covered the Islanders for 10 years before moving to AM New York and covering the Nets and the Devils and the Yankees and all these other teams. But I never really saw that in the 10 plus years that I covered the Islanders, that you had Devils fans really making that trip across the river to go to Long Island to really, make themselves a presence. You had seen that with Islander fans. You see that with Ranger fans at the Rock. Unfortunately for you guys, I'm sure that's probably driven you crazy over the years, but, it was really the first time that I had seen Devil fans really out and loud and making their presence known. And that's a really cool thing. And I think that you're going to see that in the playoffs, whoever the Devils end up playing, whichever team that is. And like I said, I think it's looking towards the Rangers. But to answer your question in a very long-winded way, I don't necessarily know if it's a must-win. I think everyone knows the stakes, and I think really the fundamentals of for both teams are kind of the focus. I think the Devils desperately kind of want to get back to their style of hockey, their brand of hockey, and kind of eliminate a lot of those mistakes. Lindy Ruff talked a lot about it going into that Islander game, that this was these next couple weeks, these next couple games, the focus is on just getting better and being prepared for the postseason.
Absolutely. And I completely agree with a lot of what you're saying. That doesn't mean I'm not worried. It doesn't mean I'm
fair.
not worried about what I've seen from this team over the past couple of weeks. A lot of it is happenstance. If you win that Minnesota Wild game, or if you even take it to a shootout, you lose in the shootout, you feel a lot better. If the Tatar goal counts, I think that's a completely different game in the last game. There's just been a lot of just like nips and tucks that have not gone the Devils' way. I mean, just to show like what's going on, Timo Meier has the best like Corsi for percentage like on the team, and he has 3 goals. And he's getting a ton. I think it's something like he's on the ice for like 50 high danger chances, and again, he has 3 goals. And 2, he's been on the ice for 2 high danger goals out of 50 chances. There's definitely something that's not. There is a luck factor to this. But I want to get your idea. You've been covering every team in this area. You kind of have an eye on the Islanders. You have an eye on the Rangers. You have an eye on the Devils. What do you think of the Devils right now as we head into the postseason? I believe about 2 weeks away. What are your thoughts of the Devils right now?
I think their lack of playoff experience is kind of showing a little bit. Now, obviously, we're not at the postseason yet, but these are games, especially late in the season, where you look at the Minnesota Wild game, you look at the way the Islanders play. It's a perfect example. That's the type of hockey you're going to see in the postseason. And the Devils are kind of getting their first, I think, real taste in these really tight situations. And their lack of experience is kind of showing. The New Jersey's done a great job of building around a lot of young players on that roster and kind of building around that. And they've been a dominant team all season long. That being said, you're certainly starting to see, I think, a little bit of that lack of experience showing. This is where you learn to play those tight 2-1, 3-2 games. This is where you got to use as much as the skill you have and the speed you have, as much as that physicality, and toss the body around just as much as the other teams are going to do it. I know Minnesota, they kind of did that to the Devils, and they won that game. The Islanders did the same thing. Even though Barry Trotz isn't there anymore, Lane Lambert still embraces that sort of Barry Trotz-esque style that's been so tough to play against in the postseason for a lot of the best teams in the National Hockey League. And, you saw that on Monday night. And I think that's what is starting to show a little bit. New Jersey has been a team that uses its speed. They're fast. They love to move the puck in transition and kind of create chaos. But at the same time, I think they're kind of getting that taste of, okay, this is how it's going to be in the playoffs. The teams are going to knock us around. They're going to, you're going to have to battle in the dirty areas. You're going to have to be physical. You're going to have to be a little bit more than just the speed and skill factor that you have. And, I think that's kind of their biggest weakness right now. And I don't even want to say it's a weakness, because I think it comes with the territory where you have this roughly 2-week window to sort of kind of iron out the wrinkles there a little bit for New Jersey. And I think these games are exactly what the Devils need. They clinch the playoff spot early. They kind of have a little bit of runway to move around with. And I get it. No one wants to lose to the New York Rangers or the New York Islanders, especially their closest rival, right?
Yeah.
But if I'm the Devils, I'll take a learning lesson now, and I'll take a loss to the Islanders and maybe to the Rangers. I think it's going to be a really tough, tight game. But I'll take those losses now rather than when they happen in the postseason. If you're playing the Rangers, okay, now I have a little bit of an idea. I have a little bit of a taste. If the Devils manage to catch the Carolina Hurricanes and the Islanders kind of stand pat where they are, now you have an idea of how you have to play the New York Islanders or whatever team you're going to play in the postseason. So I understand the concern. I understand the worry, but I think it's part of the growing pains of a young team that's making an impact and making the playoffs. And if it helps kind of calm Devils fans a little bit. Remember, the Islanders, the 2 years that they went to the Eastern Conference Final back-to-back, they did the same thing. They backed into the playoffs. They played sluggish hockey. They got away from their game. And come the postseason, they turned it on. So, I think one thing that's great about hockey, or maybe maddening about hockey, is you can back into the playoffs. You can kind of struggle a little bit. But if you get hot at the right time, boy, you don't want to be the other team on the other side of that.
So you mentioned possibly winning the division, facing the Islanders. You just wrote about the Devils' positioning for AM New York and kind of what that means to them. So I kind of wanted you to kind of do a little pitch based on what you think the Devils should do. Do you think they should go all in, make sure they win these games because of positioning specifically? You always want to win games, but
right,
because of the specific positioning, do you think that winning the division is important? Do you think that home ice against the Rangers is important? What are the factors here that makes you think that positioning is important here?
Yeah, I think that home ice is one of the, or I should say hockey is one of the few sports that still, I would argue, home field, home ice advantage really, really, really makes a difference, right? Having that crowd around you, the atmosphere around you, and there are certain buildings in this league where, there's a lot of great buildings in this league, but there are just certain buildings in the NHL where you go to and you go into a playoff atmosphere and you're like, wow, that's a fantastic building to play in. And I think the Devils have done a fantastic job in kind of cultivating that this year. I think they've done a great job at kind of winning the games at home that they need to, and kind of setting up that for themselves. And As much as I kind of called, this Thursday game against the Rangers and not a must win, I think there is certainly a sense of kind of extra boost of confidence you have going and getting that home ice advantage and being able to sleep in your own bed, albeit, if they play the Rangers, they're going to get a hotel in Manhattan, which is probably, a stone's throw away from where a lot of these guys live. But, I think there still is something to having that home ice, even with it being most likely a rivalry matchup and with it being, a team that's separated by 12 miles from you. You're still going to get Ranger fans in Prudential Center for a playoff game and vice versa. But, I just think there still is something to having home ice for New Jersey, especially with them being a young team and getting a lot of them getting their first real taste of the postseason. So I think that means a lot more. Maybe that calms the nerves a little bit or gives them an extra jump or an extra sense of motivation. Not that a lot of these guys need it. I get it. They're professional athletes. Their ultimate goal is to winning a title, but getting that opportunity to start the playoffs on your home ice is, I think that just has an extra sense of meaning for a lot of those guys in the locker room, especially if it comes against a rival like the Devils. But you kind of go balls to the wall, for lack of a better term, there to win as many games out. And if you can catch the Carolina Hurricanes, I think that maybe you're in a better position playing the Islanders than you would be against the Rangers. I think tomorrow's game is really going to be a test of where these two teams are and how well New Jersey matches up against the Rangers, right? Because these are two very different teams than the last time they saw each other. So Patrick Kane and Tarasenko on one side of the ice, Timo Meier there for the Devils, and it's the first time all those guys are getting that sense of the Hudson River rivalry, and I think for the most part, I think it's the real first time we've, as fans and media, have gotten a sense of what this rivalry really can be. In a while, I don't think that it's really had that same impact, I'd argue, since 2012 when the two teams met in the Eastern Conference Final, and Zach Parise got to play the hero. I think that it's really great for the sport and really great for the area to finally have not just the Rangers and not just the Devils, but all three teams in the mix and potentially playing for the Stanley Cup and possibly having to go through one of them having to go through the other two rivals. So it's pretty cool. But I think if you're New Jersey, you're playing to win games. You're playing to keep home ice and keep that momentum going to the postseason.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you on just about all those points. I think momentum is important, especially since you're going into this rivalry game, or this rivalry series. One note I'll make about the Islanders: Ilya Sorokin was ridiculous on Monday. Like, ridiculous.
He was,
but that gets tiring. You've heard about goalies stealing a series, right? We've had one in Brodeur. Brodeur has stolen series by himself before, but you even saw it with Brodeur in 2001. I just think he got hit with so much skill and so much speed and determination of that Colorado team in 2001. Like, you just kind of eventually, like, you're just like, geez, can, like, we calm down a little bit? And I think Sorokin would happen to him. And the Islanders might win the first two games in New Jersey, and I'd still be confident that New Jersey could come back because they're gonna pepper Sorokin just like they did yesterday. I understand that the Islanders let in shots, but the quality chances, like the eye test, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I just saw the Devils put together some really good chances on Sorokin and him stopping them over and over again. And you had the Eric Hollis shot that went in, and you had the Tatar opportunity that got called back, and like it's coming from so many different places. And it's just a mental drain on these players. I do think, and the same thing with Shesterkin. If you're playing the Rangers, the only thing that the Rangers have for them is that they can match, and they also have one of the best power plays we've seen in a long time. So those two things are what scare you about the Rangers. They can match that speed a little bit. I don't know if they can with Kane on the ice, but they can with others. So I think that is one thing that's going in the Devils' favor. Now, with all that said, I'm going to kind of ask you a loaded question here, and you can kind of take it where you want to, Christian.
Okay.
I feel like this is a job interview. Tell me about your biggest strength and your biggest weakness. But I do want to know, what is the Devils' biggest strength in your mind? And let's focus on the postseason. Like, what's going to be their biggest strength in the postseason? And then what do you think is going to be the biggest detriment, their biggest weakness in the postseason?
I think their biggest strength is their speed and their skill that they have, right? Because you see the way they move the puck, and you see the way that they almost with ease and fluidity that they transition from the defensive end to the offensive end, and it really is impressive because you see them kind of get behind defenders and create these opportunities, and that to me is something that teams can't match sometimes, right? And if you can take advantage of those opportunities and make a couple of those count, then I mean that's going to make a world's difference. The problem with that, though, and I noticed it when they were playing the Islanders the other night, was the fact that it can at times get them into trouble a little bit. They kind of move a little faster than their minds are working, and their passes aren't as crisp, and it can kind of create a turnover and move the other way, and they kind of get in their own way sometimes by being a little too quick and trying to be too quick with the pass or too quick with kind of that transition, and it causes themselves a little bit of a headache as well. But I wouldn't say that's even their detriment. Detriment, I think, is going to be the lack of experience and sort of being in the postseason, right? Because that anyone who's watched the postseason knows what a different animal it can be, and how tough the grind is for everybody. Not just the best teams or the teams that are down there in the just kind of making it into the playoffs. It's a grind, and if you're not used to it, and if you're not having gone through it before, I think there's a reason why you see a lot of teams that go on to win Stanley Cups have to take a couple of years before they can pull it off if they're not veteran laden teams. And New Jersey's kind of learning that. And I think kind of going back to what I was saying earlier is you're seeing their lack of experience show a little bit, but the way that they're learning now how to play in these tight games. And I get it. The Devils have won tight games this season, and they've won, close contests, but it's just a different animal. And sometimes it's hard to really explain until you see it, until you're a part of it. And, I think that, that's going to be their biggest detriment. They're going to have to figure out how to win in the playoffs and how to play these tight games. And I think that's really going to be what kind of differentiates a win and a loss for New Jersey is if they're in a 1-1 game and, they're getting knocked around a little bit. Are they going to have the willpower? Are they going to have the ability to kind of punch back, so to speak, and, find a way to grit out a 3-1 win with that empty net goal and getting that late goal in the second or third period and holding on to a lead like that. So I think that's kind of it. That's to me their biggest weakness because they have all the skill in the world. I think goaltending too can be a little shaky as well. But I don't think that's the biggest thing that's going to cost them. I think it's going to be the fact that they're going to have to figure out on the fly a little bit here how to play in the playoffs and how to play those tough, hard-nosed battles.
Yeah, and I agree on a lot of that. I do think that, that experience and that grit, that just knowing how to win. It's like a trope. I get it. It is a trope, but it's true. That's why the Tampa Bay Lightning have gotten, I used to live in Tampa and I covered the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they just knew what to do to win every series, every single series. And say what you will, the Toronto Maple Leafs have gotten to the pivotal game for, I think, 5 years in a row, where it's a do or die game, win or go home, and they lose every time. I don't know if it's a coaching thing, and, the Devils have a veteran coach in Lindy Ruff. I don't know if it's the players in the locker room thing, but you want to think that, those things don't necessarily matter, but you've seen it too many times. Like, how long did it take Colorado?
Yeah.
Colorado's had this incredibly talented team for 4 years now, I think, and they just finally went, they lost early 2 years. They went a little bit later 2 years ago, and then last year they won the Stanley Cup. So you see these things, you see the writing on the wall. I think the Devils are on the up and up, like you said, but you gotta see it. My only worry is that you only get so many shots at this, and you want to think that the Devils are going to be in the playoffs every year from now on. But how many times have we seen it where we thought a team was going to do that? We thought Vancouver was going to do that. They have Thatcher Demko and Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes and all of these really good pieces. A couple bad free agent signings, a couple mistakes in trades, and now they're the laughingstock. And you want to avoid that if you're New Jersey, and you want to take as many cracks at it as you possibly can. But Christian Arnold. Oh no, do you have something to say? I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to say to kind of bounce off that. I think I look at the Devils and it's Vancouver's kind of a great example of sort of how things can quickly turn and go from great to not so great. But I think when you look at the way the Devils have built, I mean, you got to appreciate what Fitzgerald has done and bringing in Lindy Ruff and what the job he's done for the Devils this year. And I have to say, I think this isn't a situation where, you look at it a year from now and go, wow, the Devils missed their opportunity that one time and they made a couple. I think the Devils have put themselves in a position to really succeed for a long time. I have to give credit to, a friend of mine who's from New Jersey. He's a big Devils fan, and I kind of laughed at him maybe a year or two ago, and he said, listen, this year's going to suck, but look, the year after that, this is going to be a good team. You watch. And to his credit, he was 100% on the money. And I think you're seeing a lot of the same building blocks that you saw with some of those other contending teams where it takes a little bit of time to build and you got to have a little patience. But when it clicks and when it connects, boy, it really connects and it really clicks. And I think you're starting to see the pieces come together for New Jersey. And that's a really exciting thing for Devils fans who have kind of lived in the shadow of the Rangers and the Islanders for the last couple of years.
Yeah, that shadow has been dark too.
I can certainly understand. Again, covered the Islanders for 10 plus years, and for a while that was a lot of bad hockey. And you saw the building blocks and pieces start to come together and then fall apart very quickly, then come back together and fall apart very quickly. So I think you're seeing sustained pieces here with the Devils comparatively to what has happened for some other teams.
Well, I hope so. I hope we're looking at the makings of, I don't want to say dynasty. That's way, way, way too early to say words like that. But the making of a consistent contender. If I get a consistent contender, throw a Stanley Cup in there. That'd be great. But if I get a consistent contender, I will be happy. But Christian Arnold, AM New York. Christian, take a second. Let everybody know where they can find your stuff. Promote something that's coming up. Let us know what you got coming up on AM New York.
Yeah, absolutely. Really appreciate it. You can follow us, the paper, at AMNY Sports on Twitter. You can follow me individually at C_Arnold01. I cover the Devils, the Nets, the Yankees, the Giants, just about everything pretty much. So, and there's a ton of stuff. We have opening day coverage, full opening day coverage between the Mets and the Yankees. Obviously, Devils coverage up the wall as we get closer to the playoffs. The Rangers, if that's your cup of tea and you want to read about the rivals of the New Jersey Devils, we do cover them. Same with the Islanders as well. We do cover them. But we cover all of New York sports. You can follow us on TikTok as well, AMNY Sports, and Instagram, AMNY Sports. Really trying to grow out the brand. And, of course, if you're commuting in and out from your job into Manhattan from New Jersey, you can pick us up at newsstands across the city, at subway stations, and on the street corner, AMNY newspaper, all over the place. So definitely check us out, and really appreciate you guys, again, having me on and being able to plug our paper.
Yeah, absolutely. We love traditional media. We'll fight for the newspapers until we die. But Christian, thank you so much for spending time with us. This was great. We had a lot of fun, and we'll definitely have you on again soon.
Absolutely. Anytime you guys want, I will be available 24/7 for y'all.
Thanks, Christian.
Thank you, Christian. That is Christian Arnold of AM New York. You can find him on Twitter at C_Arnold01. It's always good to get a different perspective, Nick.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm here for. I'm trying to get all of the ideas. We had GSB, Julie Banks, on a couple weeks ago. I think she's a Rangers fan, unfortunately. I keep making fun of her on Twitter about it. But, and she might, be in the building tomorrow. So if you see JSB, make sure you say hi from the Let's Go Devils podcast, but also she's rooting for the wrong team. Just let her know. Just kind of.
Well, I actually reminded her that our offer still stands. If she comes to American Whiskey, we'll have a table for her
Okay.
It's actually going to be. I talked to American Whiskey, and they told me people are actually booking reservations like way in advance. They want a table.
Oh,
So you better get
love
here
that.
early. Yeah. Yeah. It's
Listen, last time, so when we had that 500,000 download party, the wait was an hour and a half for a table. An hour and a
Was it
half,
really?
Sam. Yeah. That's like half price apps at Applebee's time. Yeah, an hour and a half for a table. So, the people are rocking and rolling in American Whiskey. It's one of the best atmospheres that you'll ever get for a pregame at anything. It's the unique, the thing that, I know a lot of people are like complaining about The Rock for this thing or another, but take the train, you get out right next to the arena, and you got the bar right across the street. Like, you just didn't get that at Continental Airlines Arena. You know what I mean,
No,
Sam? Like, I
you
get
didn't.
that
You had the tailgate, but you didn't have this.
Yeah. How's the tailgating? I always go to American Whiskey. What's the tailgating like? Is this the tailgating?
Actually, this is really the replacement of the tailgating at the old Meadowlands. I mean, I was a big tailgater back then. I mean, I was so hardcore that I would get there before 4 o'clock before they started to collect money for parking. Because I always hated paying for parking. I still hate paying parking today. ATM fees, parking, I hate it all.
I hate paying for something that just exists.
Yeah. Yeah, and, it's, let me tell you something. Again, I don't want to, overhype it or whatever, but last Devils Rangers game, that was a 1 p.m. start, matinee. You remember that game, January 7th? This place was full by, 10:30 a.m. in the morning.
They open that early?
The doors actually opened. I think we actually had Let's Go Devils podcast fans walk in by 9:15 a.m. that day.
That's wild. So how does it work, Sam?
It
looks pretty closed right now. Was it only open for Devils games? I should know this, but
No. They were open before. They're closing at 8 because there's no events. So there were probably about 30 people here when I got here around 7:15 p.m.
Not bad.
So it wasn't like a Devils Rangers game or anything. But there's people. The food's good. I mean, I just had a salad, avocado grilled chicken with ranch dressing. It was good. It was the first healthiest meal I've had in a long time.
And you got to hit American Whiskey.
I got it.
Now, if you want that unhealthy meal, the Adam Hamway burger. Is it the Adam Hamway burger or is it just the Hamway burger?
You know what? I'll just call it the Hamway burger. It's just,
or it's like the Taylor Hamway burger or something.
I don't know. We better get Adam here.
We got to get out of there.
You
I
have
know
his
he's
number.
busy.
But
yeah, I know he's busy.
I gotta tell Adam. We plan to play NHL '94 here on the big screen here at American.
Oh, nice.
Whiskey.
What do we Sam? We'll talk offline, but I'm assuming there's going to be some watch parties for the playoffs, right?
Yeah, we're working with American Whiskey right now. Things are just being in the works in terms of the playoffs and viewing parties. We also, have other partners as well. So we may go crazy. We may have to synchronize bars because we have so many friends that want to do it with us, but there's only one game and one of us. So we may have to send Beer Baron to one bar, Shorts Guy to another bar, and me at American Whiskey or something like that. It may have to turn out to be that way.
I'm going to try to, obviously my situation is a little fluid, we'll say, with the incoming baby. But, if it's...
You should plan these things, Nick. You got to plan these things.
Yeah, I'm going to have a playoff, baby. What was wrong with me, Sam?
You know what? It's after July 1st, traditionally, free agent frenzy. Okay, maybe a week later, then, I'm just kidding around. Hopefully your wife doesn't hate me now.
Yeah. Maybe I was just so excited about signing Andre Palat, a baby happened because of it. I don't know. Does that timeline work out? I don't know.
I don't know. But, I remember planning my wedding. I made sure that it wasn't in June, May, or April.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, I made we always had our wedding was in October, so it was always slated for October, and not the beginning of October, so not like an opening night. Our big thing was we wanted to plan it for a West Virginia bye week, so that was kind of the big thing. I'm sure Penn State might have been on your mind a little bit, for football, but that was our. But we did plan it around sports, but I think there actually was a.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think there was a Devils game on my wedding day. I had to put out the tweet like, "Hey guys, I'm not covering the game tonight. Get married. Let me know what happens."
It's funny because the same thing happened with me. It was October 29th, 2016, and all my friends came, all season ticket holders. So there was like probably about 20 tickets available in this one section. And they all gave it to one guy. His name is Undertaker, and he actually held up a sign. He posted a sign, in the section that out to a wedding. And if you look back at the stats, not saying that Halloween had anything to do with it, but out of all the games that season, 2016-2017 season, that October 29th game against the Tampa Bay Lightning had the lowest attendance. It was a factor.
Hey, you definitely hurt. You definitely heard it. Oh no, they didn't play. Okay, because I just looked it up just because I was curious. But Blake Coleman spoke after practice on 10/20. Oh no, wait, hold on. I wrote the wrong. Is that the wrong date? No, that's the right date. Yeah. Okay, so the Devils didn't play.
What's your date?
October 26th, 2019.
Okay.
Coming up on 4 years of marriage. That's. I mean, I blame the pandemic for not realizing how long I've been married. Yeah, because I'm at 3.5 years, right? Yeah, about 3.5 years.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, when I was married before I started this podcast.
Yeah.
I'm still married, which I'm happy about.
Yeah. Hey, listen, sometimes I question. I'm like, hey, Melanie is a understanding woman, but
hey, I'm at American Whiskey setting up on a Wednesday night, talking on the State of the Fan address. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, all you fans, if you ever see my wife at one of these podcasts, I think you should thank her more than me. Because a lot of people thank me for the podcast, and it's like, no. Thank the boss.
You got to thank the wives. Thank the wives for being very understanding of me writing. I'm literally going to. So I wrote an article. I edited a Dan Rice article, and I'll start my plugs now, Sam. We'll just jump right into plugs. I edited a Dan Rice article before this podcast. We were watching Ted Lasso, and I edited a Dan Rice article. He wrote about Jesper Bratt and his thoughts on the playoffs and how he's primed for the playoffs. You got to remember, Jesper Bratt has a little experience. I think he played 2 games against the Lightning in 2018. So he's been clamoring for this. He had a couple good quotes that he said directly to Dan Rice. Love that. I said that the Damon Severson piece about the options re-signing him and why it's going to be hard because of that Frank Saravalli article that came out today. Jersey Joe wrote about why the Devils need to just simplify things. They need to simplify everything. Simplify the power play, simplify the 5v5 play, simplify the defense to make things easier in the postseason. And I couldn't agree more. Sam, I wrote about a stat. I love doing this. I wrote about one singular stat.
I saw that.
It looks like it's doing pretty well. One singular stat. I'm just going to tease you. Nico Hischier is 13th. I think it's 13th or 12th. I think he's 13th. He's 13th in the NHL. In one very important offensive statistic. An offensive statistic that leads directly to goals. No, they got to read the article to see what the statistic is. But I will tell you this.
Oh, you teased me.
He is one behind Austin Matthews, and 2 behind sure thing MVP Connor McDavid. And the number is 145. So we're not talking about like he's got 3 and McDavid has 5.
Wait. So he's got 1 behind Matthews and 2 behind David?
McDavid, yeah.
McDavid?
So McDavid has
like
147.
He's 1 behind. Oh, okay.
McDavid has 147. Matthews has 146. He sure has 145. And it just when you look at who's at the top of the list, it's the best of the best in the league. Both Tkachuk brothers. I think Brady Tkachuk is number 1, and Matthew Tkachuk is number 5. Tkachuk. Am I messing this up again? It's Tkachuk, right?
Yeah, it's almost like Canuck. It's Tkachuk.
Okay. Matthew Tkachuk and Brady Tkachuk. See, it just doesn't sound right, though. Are you sure?
I've watched their father play for years. He was one of my favorite players.
Okay. It just sounds wrong. I don't know why.
Well, it's just
Brady
like Andre Palat or Andrej Palat.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe just because he's not on my team and I haven't said it. The Devils push for Matthew Tkachuk, which is funny. I wonder what would happen. I'm sure he's loving the paying no taxes on his $9 million a year. But it seemed like he didn't want to come to the Devils because he didn't trust going to the Devils, right? That seemed like that was the issue when his cousin, Tom Fitzgerald, was talking about trading for him. But anyway, to continue the plugs, Ethan Fink, first ever article, brand new to pucksandpitchforks.com. He wrote about Nathan Bastian and why his presence in the lineup is a direct contributor to success. The wins to Bastian ratio is high, Sam. I also wrote about Timo Meier and Luke Hughes.
Whoa. The wins to Bastian ratio is high, meaning whenever he plays, the Devils win?
Yeah. Let me open this up.
Well, wasn't I the one that tried to spare him in the expansion draft?
Listen,
jeez,
you're talking about ancient history. The Devils are 36-3 with Bastian in the lineup. 36-3. When Bastian is injured or he's sitting for whatever reason Lindy Ruff has in his head, 16-14-5.
Well, that's what happens when you screen the goalie.
19 losses out of 35 games. But yeah, go to pucksandpitchforks.com. Tomorrow I'm going to have a very in-depth Devils Rangers preview. So we gotta say goodbye, Sam, so I can go write this Devils Rangers preview for the fans.
Yeah, and I gotta set up. I'll put up some pictures on our Twitter account at Let's Go Devils Pod for all those on social media of the setup when it's already done. Sorry, Nick.
We're looking forward to
close out this.
What's all good? It's all good, Sam.
Yeah,
we got a bigger delay than we usually have. And I think that's messing us up.
Yeah. The other thing too, we have some latency issues here. The other thing too is I also found some 2 video pieces that we're going to be displaying here at American Whiskey tomorrow, from 2 separate movies of Madison Square Garden getting blown up.
Oh.
So we'll be running that on the loop on the big TV. And then I did a little research, and I was going to ask Christian Arnold about this, but I thought I'd be, being a troll like I normally am. July 24th, 2023, the New York Rangers, their lease, or actually Madison Square Garden, their permit and lease to run 2,500 plus capacity will expire. What will the New York City do? They want to turn it into a train station.
There's been talk, Sam. They might not renew. Yeah. That was years ago, though, but I know that they were looking at that date. It's coming up.
Well, the new governor is adamant of building a transportation hub, but they probably will allow them to still operate, most likely, because of the pandemic. Things get pushed behind. But look, I'm all for the wrecking ball on Madison Square Garden. Shouldn't have been there in the first place. They should have never tore down the old Penn Station. Maybe I'll write about that on pucksandpitchforks.com.
We've been waiting, Sam.
I'm just kidding.
We've been patiently waiting.
All right. Well, you know I'm a busy guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There it is. There's
excuses. Yeah, there. Yeah, I was stalling just to get to that music. It's hard to do a podcast and produce remotely. But anyway, I want to thank all those tuning in. Go to pucksandpitchforks.com. Drop in the podcast at midnight, and thank you for all the downloads on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music Prime, Audible, and all of our listeners overseas in Switzerland, Germany, England, now Egypt has now made it on to the Let's Go Devils podcast. Yes. Internationally known. Thank you very much. Till next time, let's go Devils.